Hi, everyone. Landry Etheridge here with Etheridge Counseling Group in Charleston, South Carolina. Today, I'm joined by Claire Johnson to talk about something that often gets overlooked or overshadowed by resolutions. That is a gentle, grounded end of year reflection. Claire wrote a beautiful article about shifting from self-criticism to self-understanding. And today, we're going to explore some simple ways that you can reflect and actually support your nervous system rather than overwhelm it by a list of unattainable resolutions, perhaps. Claire, you talk about approaching reflection without judgment, more like understanding your story instead of focusing on fixing yourself. What does compassionate self-reflection actually look like?
Yeah, so it's it can be tough, but a lot of us see ourselves as, these entities that are either succeeding or failing at any
Mm,
given moment, rather than just as a human being that's living their life and making some mistakes and also doing some amazing things but in general, it's more about thinking about yourself as a human being with all these values and qualities and parts of yourself rather than what are you good at, what are you doing, what are you not doing, how are you failing. It's more about like who you are as a person and the story of your life rather than like how have you checked off your to-do list, or how many goals have you achieved, that because that's not really what makes us who we are.
mm-hmm. I love that. That's really insightful. And it's already shifting a few things for myself. I love the prompt in your article where I think it's what asked the most of you this year? And then can you explain what this form of reflection, um, or why this form of reflection is often more meaningful than just asking like what you accomplished?
Yeah. A lot of times reflection is I feel like based around like like what goals did you achieve? What did you do this year that you wanted to do? It's all about action. Which is there's that there's nothing wrong with that. But another way of thinking about your year is what were the hard things you got through? What were the lessons that you learned? What were the times that were really challenging that you were able to dig deep inside of yourself and figure out a way to get through those times. That kind of shifts it to focusing on the resilience that you have, maybe the coping tools you have that you didn't even realize, or the people you have in your life that helped you get through those. It's shifting it away from like how am I, what did I do to what were the things helping me to get through these times, and it can just really highlight how much strength we really have.
Hmm, hmm. You also encourage checking in with personal values. In your article, how can someone tell when they're living like in alignment with their value system versus when stress and obligation are kind of pulling them away?
Yeah. So it can be helpful, one, to do like an exercise to actually identify like what your values are to begin with, because I think we all have an idea of what is most important to us, but kind of making that more explicit can be helpful just to have in your mind. But
Yes.
yeah, and but also just when you're living in alignment with your values, it's easier to make decisions because you have a grounded way to make decisions. Things don't feel so stressful or overwhelming because you kind of have um, a, a path of the way you want your life to look. And then it often, when you're making decisions with your that are aligned with your values, there's not as much anxiety or dread or fear. It's more things may not go right, but it's coming from a place that is truly
Mm,
me, truly fulfilling to me.
I love that. Yes, the value exercise is something do with clients quite a bit, and it's always so powerful. And for anybody listening who's interested in kind of doing something similar with themselves, I will look at a list of maybe about 100 different values and have somebody just go through and circle the ones that jump out to them, and then kind of narrow it down to about five. And this isn't the values that you wish you had or you think you should have. It's what kind of by by looking, reflecting back on your life, what do you see is most important? So it might not be achievement, it might be beauty is your value, so different things. I think that's such a helpful way of doing an end of year reflection is looking at it that way. I think that's a really helpful way. Yeah, a helpful kind of reframe there. For someone who wants to end the year with intentions but feels maybe a little overwhelmed by that, what are one or two small rituals you'd recommend to sort of gently close out the year?
Yeah, so it can be anything small. It doesn't have to be this major self-reflective huge moment, but whatever feels natural to you, but just a few ideas. One thing I really like is um, creating a playlist of songs that remind you of the past year. That kind of engages with the creative right side part of your brain that does encourage processing, and there's so much emotion tied to music. So, try kind of reflecting on your year through that can be a really cool exercise. And then this is very simple, but just intentionally finding a candle that you love, a calming scent, lighting it, taking some long, deep breaths, and just intentionally kind of exhaling the past and thinking about a few things that you want to ground yourself in for the future. So just a really like deep breathing practice can really reorient you for the new year.
So, so powerful. So small and yet so powerful. Some of these some of these mo the most helpful things you can do really are the most simple. It's just
Mhm.
actually doing them. Yeah,
Yeah.
just taking a few moments. Yeah, taking a few moments can really create a nice shift. Claire, I think this is such a refreshing way to approach the end of the year. And for anyone watching, and if this feels, if you're feeling a pull to do some of this, I really recommend heading over to the website and reading Claire's blog and kind of sitting with some of these things and reflecting. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow so that you can be the first to see when another video with Claire and I pops up.